Good morning. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I sent you the practice test, but it was pretty late last night. It took me way longer than it should have to make it. So anyways, only because I wanted it to be really good for you guys. So anyways, I've posted it on Moodle. I attached it in the email that I sent out yesterday. And we'll go through, I'll just pick through a couple of the questions, but I do want to leave a lot of them for you guys to work through as well. So we'll kind of see what happens here. Okay. Oh, that's what I had to do. That's why I had this out. I need to plug in. I'm at 83% now, and that's a lot. But by the time we get to my next class, it won't be. Yeah, so I will post the answer key. Definitely with the answers, and then I'll work on the full solutions. But I can promise the answers, and then if you have any questions, if you're working through something, then just text me and we can work through a question together if need be. Kind of text back and forth. Okay, so there will be an answer key. Don't worry. This test, I would say, is just a little bit longer than, or the practice test is just a smidge longer than I would probably make the actual test. But that's because I wanted you to have, so if you scroll through, for example, so here it is. So far, so good. Question 7, I'd probably reduce that to maybe 4 parts instead of A to G. I would probably do, you know, I'd say A and B are pretty similar, C and D are pretty similar, and then E is kind of on its own, and then F and G are pretty similar. So I'd probably pick one of each of those, right? And then, so stuff like that, even 10, I might just do, 3 or 4 of those. I know there's 5, but just reduce it a little bit. But this is the length that you should be working towards, right? Okay, so test number 1. Review day. Okay, so practice test number 1. Is posted on Moodle, right? And we'll just kind of go through it a little bit. I will post the solutions later today. Or I'll say the answer key instead. The answer key, because it might not be full solutions. I have the answer key ready. That's why I'm not promising anything. So I'll post the answer key later today. Oops. I have a class right after you guys, right? And then, but then after that, I'll be able to post it. Okay, so how are we going to do this test? So that's what we need to talk about today. That's what we need to kind of solidify today. So what I want you to do for this test to submit it is I'll post a PDF of the actual test, just like the practice test. Okay, so procedure for the test tomorrow, or for the test on Thursday. Okay. first things first, I will post the test on Moodle, and it will be available, oops. It will be available right as class starts at 8 a.m. on Thursday. Okay. It will be in the same format as the practice test, so it's just going to be a PDF, a long PDF of just all the questions smushed together. Okay. In the same format, just so you know what to expect as the practice test. Okay. So what you'll do is you're going to work on a piece of paper, just because I don't want to assume that you have a printer or anything like that. So, or access to a printer, or even if you have a printer, but if it's not working, blah, 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 blah. All those things that can go wrong. So what I want you to do is, once you have the test, I'm assuming you have a screen because we're on screens right now. So you'll be able to have the test on a screen, and then you're going to do the questions on just normal paper, right? So do the questions on paper, clearly label each question, right? Question 1, A, B, C, whatever. Okay. It's going to be important. Okay. So even if you do the questions out of order, that's fine, because we're going to use a program to submit your work, and so you'll be able to tell me where to find your work. So that's fine if you do it out of order, but you just have to clearly label where each question is. Okay. So here we are. You're working away. Well, this is different paper, but so you're working away, you're doing your problems, clearly labeling everything, of course putting your name on there, even though, I mean, I'll find you anyways, but right, just as you would do work. Okay? So do the questions, and you'll have the entire class time to do the questions. Okay? So you'll have until, when do we go till 9:50? Okay. You will have from 8 o'clock to 9:50 to write the test. Okay. So then, how I want you to submit your work is I want you to scan your work. Okay. And I'm assuming everyone has some sort of phone, or if you don't have a phone, then some sort of scanner. But I think it's pretty safe to assume that you have a scanner, a phone. So there's lots of free scanner apps. So scan your work. Into one PDF. Okay, so should be just a PDF. There are lots of free, yeah, so Genius Scan is pretty good. I haven't tried it myself, but I've seen some scans from it, and it's good. There are lots of free scanner apps. So I'll throw Genius Scan on there. I know Cam Scanner is really popular. If you have an iPhone, Scannable I think is only an iPhone thing, but Scannable for iPhone is really good. It like captures pages before you can even before you can even blink. So I really like Scannable. I've used Cam Scanner. I've used Adobe Scan, was not that good, so I'm not going to recommend it. Whatever, so play around with it. So now you know that that's what you're expected to do for the test. Probably a good idea to do a test run, right? So once you've worked on a couple of questions, and I've actually set up a full practice run for us. So practice scanning your work so that you know how to scan stuff, because that can be really nerve-wracking if you have to do it in a time crunch. Okay. So then once you have your PDF, it doesn't really matter how you send it to yourself, right? Just be able to save it somewhere. Usually you'll be able to kind of send it to yourself in an email or something like that. Okay, so that part, I don't really care how you do, but you're gonna scan your work, okay? The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go to GradeScope.com, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up your GradeScope account, hopefully now or sometime today, hopefully. So then you're gonna go to GradeScope.com to submit your work. Okay, and I've got instructions for going to and setting up GradeScope, but I'll do them below because this is the procedure for the test. Okay, so, and then go to GradeScope and submit your work, which means upload the PDF. And then the second thing that you're gonna do, yeah, if you have GradeScope already, that's great. I'll just give you the access code. Have you guys used GradeScope as a group? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, cool. So just so that everyone's on the same page. Oh, nice. Okay, so some people have, some people haven't. That's okay. I'll walk you through it and show you how to get it set up. Okay, it's pretty simple, I think. So upload the PDF, and then you tell it where to find the work for each question. Okay, so how do I say that? Assign each question to a page, or to the page where the work can be found. Okay. Step 6. Relax. And enjoy your day, because then you're done. Okay. So for GradeScope, what you're going to do is you're going to go to GradeScope.com. Okay. And then where did I put that? Okay. Create an account. Or log in. Okay, whichever. If you have an account, then you don't need to create another account. That's fine. Our access code, or how do they call it? I think they maybe call it an access code. For this course is capital E, capital R, 5GZX. Okay. And then for practice, what I did was I put up a practice document. So upload a practice document course entry code. Thank you. See if I can squeeze it in there. Nice. Thanks, Ash. So you're going to upload a practice document, right, to make sure that you know how to learn how to assign questions. So I'm going to take us there, which means I have to switch the screen. Oh, then let me, it said invalid. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Let me start sharing this screen, okay. Share. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. It switches out. Okay. So let's go here to GradeScope. Put chat over here. All right. So I want to go and I'm going to log in. I've got a student account or a fake student account. My Hotmail. So I'm going to log in. Okay, or you create an account if you don't have one already. Okay, that's pretty basic stuff. So, but if you do need help with that, then just let me know. But down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's an add course. So I'm going to add, and here I'm going to do capital E, capital R. I'm going to try it. 5, capital GZX. Add a course. Okay, so, did you get it to work, Tim, or? Okay. Make sure it's all caps. Okay, so maybe, yeah, if you're creating an account, I guess you have to enter the code there, but if you have an account, then you have to add a course. Okay, so that's good. It has not worked, huh? Invalid format. Okay, weird. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so it should be ER5 GZX. ER5 GZX.
Yeah, I'm still getting, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm still getting invalid. I just tried it for the first time.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm getting invalid format. I just tried it for the first time and got invalid format when you try to add the course.
That is weird. So some people are getting in, I think. Sounds like. I was able to get in. Yeah. So it does have to be all caps. Does that work? Okay. What I'm gonna do. let me go to my teacher account. ER5 GZX. Okay. So you already have a Chem 118 entry. So I can invite you. It's just I didn't know what email you wanted me to use. So let me just go see here. Okay, so Ash and Tyler have made it in. So worked for you guys. And if you go add account or add a course, okay, let me see if I can. Okay. What I'll do is I will shoot. Okay. ER5GZX. And is it only not working for the people who already have an account? Let me go back to my student one. Yeah, so, okay. So when you log into your GradeScope, if you already have an account, yeah, so it looks like everyone who already has an account, what I'll do is I'll just send a batch email to all those emails that I've been sending to. If you want a different one, then let me know. But I'll send it to, because it looks like these are all your kind of preferred emails. So I'll send an invitation to that email list that I have. But if you have a GradeScope account, you should have something that looks like this, and then you should just be able to add a course. And is that not working? It's okay, because I won't be able to. That is so weird. Yeah, but because I gave you the course code, that's what should be letting you in. So that's what tells it that you're allowed in this course. Okay, well, I'll send out. I'm gonna do that when I'm not sharing my screen. But before I stop sharing this screen, what I want to do is, because it seems to be giving you grief if you already have a GradeScope account, I'm assuming that you've kind of seen GradeScope before. And so, but I just want to show you guys how to do, so I did a practice for test one. So it's not the practice test, it's just practice submitting for test one. And so if you click on it, then you've got the option to submit images or submit a PDF. I prefer the PDF, but maybe that's just me. You're allowed to submit images, that's fine. But it's just cleaner for you to have your work as a PDF. So I'm gonna submit a PDF, and I'm just gonna do some, mine's gonna be random because, well, it's the practice test itself, okay? But you would select your PDF of your test or your work, okay? And then you go upload PDF. And then I've got question 1, question 2, and question 3. That's all I'm gonna be submitting here. And so, and it'll tell you how many points for each. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click on a question, and you can click multiple questions by holding the shift key, okay? And then you're gonna assign it to a page, right? So question 1 is on page 1, let's say. Okay? Let's just, for instance, say that question 2 is on page 2 and 3, right? Then I would click through and click page 2 and page 3. And then let's say question 3 is on page 4, right? So now what happens, just so you're aware on my end, is when I go to question 1 to grade it, it'll pull up all the submissions that you have said are on for question 1. And then I'm able to find it much easier. So that's why it's really important that you clearly label which question it is you're answering, because then I can find it on the page easier. But also when you're uploading, you need to be able to see, okay, where's my question 1, question 2, so it doesn't need to be in order, but you do need to know where all your work is. So then when you're done, you go down to the bottom and you hit submit, and then you get a little receipt, which is pretty cute, to your email. And then so now, right, I'll be able to click through. So question 2 should be on this page. It's not because it's a fake document. And then question 3. So you can just click through and make sure that things are going to the right page, right? So just make sure that if you hit question 1 here on the right-hand side, then it should show your question 1 work. If not, you can reselect pages, and you can either resubmit or be done. Good. So, oh yeah, so let's say this was not the right thing that I wanted to do. So what do? I think I can reselect pages, and how do I upload a freshie? Submitted. Okay, back to home. I'm just gonna try here. Practice. Maybe if I hit resubmit. Oh yeah, okay, so then you can resubmit and it'll take you back here, and then you could submit a different PDF. Let's say it's this one. It's the same one. And then it should make you start all over. Yeah. So fresh slate. So you can reassign pages, or you can resubmit a fresh document if you prefer. Oh, is there any way to correct if you, so let's say question 1 is on here, question 1, and then, oh, I did it backwards. I'm gonna put question 2 on pages 2, 3, and question 3 on page 4. And then I submit. Okay. So then when I click here, and let's say, okay, well, it was actually only on page 2, not page 3, then you can go reselect pages. And then see down here in the little green boxes, it tells you which questions are on which page. So if I said, oh, it wasn't on page 3 actually, I can delete it and then just have no questions selected for this page. And then you can go submit. And then it'll complain because page 3 doesn't have any questions, but you can still submit your assignment. Okay. So once you go through here, you can make sure that the work that is supposed to be attached to each question is actually coming up. And then if you need to correct it, you can reselect pages. Does that answer the question, Tim? Okay. So, no, you're not being tested on how to use it. I just want to give you a run through of what to expect and how to use it before the test, so it's not not catching you off guard. Okay. So let me start sharing this screen again. I can do that. Good. Okay. So it's really just a way to submit your work. If it gives you tons of grief or whatever, I'll have it open for another half an hour after the test. Okay, so the GradeScope. Oh, where's my pen? There it is. I hit it. I'll put it here, or maybe I won't. The GradeScope Dropbox will be open for 30 minutes after the test. Will be open until, I'll actually make it 30 minutes, until 10:30 on Thursday. Okay. To give you time to organize your submission. Okay. And I mean, if you've practiced, then who am I to say you could use that time for the test? It doesn't matter to me. Okay, so but I know you have class, so the test is supposed to only take you the class time. And then honestly, it should probably take you about 5 minutes to upload your submission. It's not really that tricky once you have done it, which is why you have the practice one. Okay? So if for some reason there's trouble, then what I want you to do is I want you to email me your submission, so your PDF, before 10:30 on Thursday. So if you can't get GradeScope to work, oops. You must email me your PDF before 10:30 on Thursday. Okay, so you have to email it to me. Okay. Yeah, so if someone could send me a screenshot of what it looks like when you're doing it, or even if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen on here, that would be really good. Just because I don't know why it's not working. Especially if you have an account, it should be easier than if you didn't have an account. Anyways. But yeah, so definitely I'll be checking in. I'll send out those invites, and especially if we're able to end a little bit earlier, then I can send those out here in the class time before. Oh, that'd be great, Tim. That's awesome. Yeah, let's do that because I'd love to see it, and then can have a look. Good. Okay. So definitely do that practice one just so you're not being caught off guard with the submission, because it's really just how you're handing in your test. It's nothing crazy. During the test, I will be here in Zoom. Okay, so if you want to log in and just kind of have me on the line here, that's fine. If you don't want to be on Zoom, that's totally fine. I don't need to see you or anything like that, just like now, it doesn't matter. It's not so I can check on you, it's so that I can answer questions if you have any, right? And so here, I'll add another page here. During the test, I will be in our Zoom room to answer questions if you have any. So just like a normal classroom situation, but it's not normal. Right, I'll be here. I'll just kind of be working on some other stuff. And then if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat if you are not comfortable kind of interrupting the class as they're writing their test. Or if you can't get my attention, I'll be paying attention. But then maybe turn your microphone on just briefly. Okay, so you can ask questions in the chat, either public or privately to me, it's fine either way. Or use your microphone. But beware, the whole class will hear you, which is probably good, because if you have a question, everyone else is going to have the same question, so that's fine. But just so you're aware, but beware, the class would hear you, which is a good thing. Okay. You don't need to be in Zoom. It's just I'm available if you have questions throughout the test. Okay. So you do not, oops, do not need to be in Zoom for the test. Right, if you prefer to kind of buckle down, just do it on your own, that's totally fine. Okay. So, but it might be good to just kind of be in the room. So how many pages? I would probably think about 5 or 6. But I mean, that depends because I usually write really big. Some people really are able to kind of squeeze things on there. So it kind of depends on your writing style. And but I do want to see as much work as possible. So I'm anticipating at least 5 or 6 pages. Okay. Let's see here. What were some other things? Okay. Good. All right. So, any questions about the procedure? So we got to get the GradeScope set up. For those of you who are already in there, I know if you're using the My Okanagan account, it looks like very few of you are, but I know it blocks the link. So we'll deal with that, but for now, it's okay. What else did I want to say? So just to talk about the practice test, okay? Show and explain all your work on paper. You're welcome to use a tablet if you prefer, obviously, as long as you're able to save it as a PDF and you're able to upload it, then that's totally fine, okay? If you don't have any work, then I can only give you part marks, okay? Unless, of course, the answer requires no work, then I know that, you know that. But if you've done any sort of thinking, I want it on the page. Unless specified, all answers should be given in exact form. Exact form is as a fraction typically, or not as a decimal, right? If you've got our fancy calculator, which I suspect most of you have, the answer will be given in exact form, so I don't want to see the decimal. I want to see, 5/3, for example. You can use any calculator you want, okay? It's supposed to be non-graphing, but honestly, I'm not checking. No one's checking on you, so you can use whatever you want. You can use Desmos. In fact, I think it's a good idea to incorporate Desmos just to check your work whenever you can. Okay? Clearly label each question in your work. We said that that's going to help you identify which page to assign to each question, right? So that's going to be helpful. And also for me when I'm looking at your page, where's the work? And then the total number of points available per question is in the box in the left-hand margin. So see all these boxes here, right? Questions for me are either 1 or 2 marks, okay? The 2-mark questions do involve more work, right? There are some 2-mark questions that are easier and some that are harder, but I do that because then it's not such a hit if you don't get one of the harder 2-mark questions. If you're getting the easier 2-mark questions, then that's worth the same amount. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're working through these problems is if you're spending, 10 minutes on a question, that's worth the same as something that took you 2 minutes, then maybe it's time to kind of leave it and move on and work on something else. Okay. This test, I'll put it here, or maybe I'll put it up here. The test is open book, right? Because I'm not going to check on you. So the test is open book. So use all your resources. Okay. The only thing that's not allowed is working together, of course, and just kind of sharing answers. That's not okay. And just like in class, if someone's been working together or kind of cheating, it's very easy to tell. So don't do it. The only thing that is not allowed is working with your classmates. Right. So that's the only thing that's not allowed. Everything else, you can have any calculator, you can Google things, you can have the notes, obviously. You can have the practice test, just for, that might be a good thing, right? Because there I've highlighted everything that I want you to know for this test. So you can have your practice test worked through. There are a lot of things that you can have. You can have Desmos ready and really use the practice test to see kind of where you're at, okay? And where you might need a crutch. Maybe make a cheat sheet, kind of a condensed cheat sheet would be helpful. Okay, so like I said, a lot of these, you can kind of use the number of marks available. If it's 1 mark, it should be a pretty quick question to work through. If it's 2 marks, it's going to require a little bit more work, right? So you can use that as a guide. I'd say the first page is pretty straightforward. And then even 6 is finding distances, right? The absolute value of b minus a. And then, so then question 7 gets a little bit harder, right? Using exponent laws, so you'll want to have those handy. Then we jump to a little bit easier in my mind, scientific notation. So you have to write from scientific notation into decimal form, or from a number to scientific notation. And then back to the grind, right? We're using polynomials and we're either adding, subtracting, multiplying polynomials, and just FOIL essentially, or expanding. Then we're factoring. Some of these I give you the way I want you to factor them. So factor out a common factor from here, right? And then we can factor by grouping terms, right? That's only if we have at least 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We can do that. Then I get you to find the domain. The domain, we have to remember that we can't divide by 0, right? And we can't take the square root of a negative number, right? So sometimes we need to combine those rules and figure out what the domain is. Then we've got these rational expressions, and we're dividing rational dividing rational expressions, or we're adding rational expressions, or we can simplify compound fractional expressions, and these 3 are pretty similar, right? Remember, if you're adding or subtracting fractions, you need to have a common denominator, right? So that's going to be a huge part of this test, is you need to have a common denominator. So then I just get you to rationalize the denominator. We talked about rationalizing the numerator, rationalizing the denominator. It just means get rid of these square roots. And what we do is we multiply by the conjugate And that's from section 1.4, I want to say. Right. If you're kind of going through your notes. Yeah, 1.4. Okay. Then we move into solving equations, right? So here we have to solve for y because that's the variable that we have. Here we're solving for x. Notice that here again, right, all of these we're adding or subtracting fractions, so we have to have that common denominator. And then here we can rearrange and solve for x. If you've got a quadratic equation and you want to solve and find the real solutions, or just the solutions we can call them, because we'll only talk about real numbers, then we use the quadratic formula, right? That's going to be a really good one to have, especially some of the previous questions also involved quadratics, right? So sometimes to simplify, we would have to use the quadratic formula in order to factor. Then we've got inequalities, which is section 1.8. And then we've got lines from 1.10, and I didn't do any questions from 1.11, but 1.11, right, is essentially just checking your work with Desmos. And so, so you can use that, especially for 21 through 23. So like I said, this practice test is just slightly longer than the real test, right? So just keep up your pace. It is pretty long, right? But that's because we're not in a classroom situation anymore. You have all these resources available to you, so I'm expecting more from you. Okay. So, let's see, what time is it? Okay. Okay, we got time. Good. Let's see here. What I want you to do, just because we've got this kind of GradeScope mix-up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of time to scroll through the practice test, because I'm assuming that you haven't had time to do that yet, but kind of go through it and see if there's anything that we should be working on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the recording, and I'm going to send out those invites right away and see if we can get GradeScope sorted out now. No sense in going through this stuff if we don't have it recorded. So by request, we're doing 7, and I picked G just because it's the last one. And it's a little bit trickier, right? F and G are similar because on the outside, we've got these negative exponents. And there are lots of ways that we can go about this. We could do the negative exponent right away. Right, the negative exponent just puts everything in the denominator, but then you've got a fraction in the denominator that you need to deal with. I would say probably the easiest way to deal with these is if you, because this exponent is all on the outside, if I now, oh, there's a gradescope.ca. Weird. Thanks, Ian. That's gotta be new. Gotta be. Okay. what I'm going to say then, if you've got gradescope.ca accounts, just hold off and I'll make a gradescope.ca account and we'll submit it through there. Okay. And I'll send out, so now that I've got your emails and everything, I can just send out another invitation, but it'll have to be probably after class. Okay, so sounds like we got to the bottom of it. Gradescope.ca. Gradescope.ca. That explains it. I was on gradescope.com. Presumably the original. Because that's the one I've been using, but anyways, whatever. All right, so the easiest way to tackle this, I think, and I encourage you to go through and see what you think is the easiest. I think it's easier because I'm seeing an S and an S, right? So, and a T and a T, so I'm seeing these like variables. I'm gonna just bring the denominator up to the numerator by negating these powers, right? So I'm gonna simplify inside the brackets first. And so what I've got, just rewriting the question, 16s to the 5 t to the 4 divided by s to the 4 t to the 9 over 2 all to the negative 1/2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these variables down from the denominator up to the numerator. So I get all inside brackets still 16s to the 5 t to the 4 s to the negative 4 t to the negative 9 over 2. Guess I don't need these huge brackets anymore, but I do need the brackets because outside everything is negative 1/2. Okay. So let's see here. Just easier. So now I can collect these same bases, right, of s to the 5, s to the negative 4. If I've got the same base, then to combine these, I'm going to have to add the powers. Same thing with the t to the 4 and t to the negative 9 over 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rearrange this and have 16s to the 5, s to the negative 4, t to the 4, t to the negative 9 over 2. Now, I am going to show quite a few more steps, right? If you just skipped this step and went straight to the next step, that's totally fine. But I just want you to see where everything is coming from, right? And so we've got 16 s to the 5 plus negative 4, t to the 4 plus negative 9 over 2, all to the negative 1/2, right? Just using the rules of exponents and everything that we know so far. Right? So now I've got 16 s to the power of 5 plus negative 4 is just 1, so it's just s. And then t to the power of 4 plus negative 9 over 2. So now I've got 4 minus a fraction, which means I have to have a common denominator, right? And so I've got 4 times 2 over 2 minus 9 over 2. And again, if you wanted to skip this step and go straight to the next step, that's totally fine. But again, I'm showing all the work that I am doing. So I have 16s times t to the power of 8 over 2 minus 9 over 2 to the negative 1/2. Okay. So I've got 16s, and then now I've got 8 over 2 minus 9 over 2. I've got that common denominator, so I'm allowed to subtract this. So I get negative 1/2 t to the negative 1/2 all to the negative 1/2. Okay. So now all I can do is I can bring in this this -1/2. Because I'm multiplying each of these variables and terms inside here, I'm allowed to bring in that exponent onto all of them. The only time that doesn't work is if I'm adding or subtracting in here, because then I need to expand, right? And so just keep that in mind. So we get 16 to the -1/2, s to the -1/2, t to the -1/2 times -1/2. So this becomes, okay, well, 16 to the -1/2 is 1 over the square root of 16, right? Same thing with s to the -1/2 is 1 over s to the 1/2, which is the square root of s. And so this becomes, right, just moving these two down to the denominator, I get the square root of 16 times the square root of s. And I'm not going to put those under the same square root because I can, but because I see that the square root of 16 is 4, it's going to simplify a little bit better if I just keep them separate. Yeah. But you totally could, right? The rules of exponents, again, if we have the same exponent, we can smush and multiply things together in the bases. T to the -1/2 times -1/2, a negative times a negative makes a positive, and then a half times a half, well, if we're multiplying fractions, right, we get, we just multiply across, so 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, so then we get t to the 1 over 4. T to the 1 over 4 we can rewrite as the 4th root. So this becomes the 4th root of t over 4 root s. So, like I said, I'm showing a little bit more work than you probably need to. For example, showing exactly that this is what I'm doing here. I'm adding the exponents. If I have the same base, you could go straight to this next step, right? As long as you're showing me everything that you're doing, that's good. Okay. So, the next request I have is 10E. Oh, 10's on this page. So let's see here. I'll just go through and highlight the ones that we did. So we did this one. And we did 10E we want. Got it. Copy. Question 10. E. Oh no, so you only need to, thanks for that, Tim. So there is a root in the denominator. Unless I tell you to rationalize the denominator, you don't need to do that. Yeah, so that's good. So don't worry, once you're here, that's simplified enough. Okay, so here, right, I've got these two terms that are being multiplied together, and as long as you treat the square root of h to the 8 plus 1 as one thing, right? And so here you'll kind of treat this as an x, right? Just treat it as one thing. Then it's going to be easier to deal with, right? And so what you do, you basically have x plus 1 times x minus 1, right? They've just made room for this kind of nasty bit. Okay? But what happens is it's going to fall out and go away. So what we have, I'll just rewrite out the question again. The root of h to the 8 plus 1 plus 1. Notice that this plus 1 is outside the square root. Times the root of h to the 8 plus 1 minus 1. So when we multiply this, right, we take the first term times the first term. So we get root h8 plus 1 times the root of h to the 8 plus 1, which is just going to be h to the 8 plus 1, right? H to the square root of h to the 8 plus 1 squared is just h to the 8 plus 1. So that's fine. Next, I'm going to take my root h to the 8 plus 1 times negative 1. So now I've got negative root h to the 8 plus 1. 1 times h to the 8 plus 1 makes plus the root of h to the 8 plus 1. And then I've got plus 1 times negative 1, which means minus 1. I'm running out of room here, so I'm kind of staggering my work like this to show that it kind of keeps going. That's all right, because what happens is the negative root h8 plus 1 plus the root of h8 plus 1, those are going to go away, right? So this goes away with this. And then the root times a root, if it's the same thing inside the root, then we just get whatever is inside the root. So h to the 8 plus 1 and then minus 1. I've got the brackets on here just to show that that's from the first term, and then the minus 1 is from the last term, but I don't actually need them because I'm not multiplying anything here. And so what I have is I have h to the 8 plus 1 minus 1, so all I'm left with is h to the 8. Good. So, 14a, you got it. Let's see if I can find it. This little guy right here, not so little, pretty nasty. Potentially one of the nastiest questions on the test. So good job. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say it's up here. Since I've got all this room here, oops. Okay. So first thing I would do is I would try to factor these things out, okay? And just try to see if I can get anything to cancel. Specifically, I'm looking for an x plus 4 anywhere really, because that looks like a nice factor to be able to pull out. But who knows? Let's see here. All right. So what I've got is I like to have things, if I'm dividing two rational expressions, I like to just flip and multiply them right away. And then if I can factor or whatever, it just makes it look a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this out as x plus 4 over 25 x squared minus 16, all divided by x squared plus 9x plus 20 divided by 5x squared plus 11x minus 12. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to simplify this so it's just a fraction. Okay? So x plus 4 over 25x squared minus 16 times, and now remember I flipped the denominator and I multiply, so times 5x squared plus 11x minus 12 over x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay. So now what I'm looking for is potentially, right, x plus 4, if I need it to cancel, I would need to have an x plus 4 either down here or down here, right? And then if I can cancel something up here with these two terms, that would be great as well. So what are we going to do? We're going to use the quadratic formula to be able to factor each of these things. So we're going to factor these individually to see where we get to, and even this one, 25x squared minus 16. So we can factor each quadratic individually. So we've got 25x squared minus 16, right? Tells me that x is negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You'll want to have the quadratic formula handy, especially for these things, right? Because this is how we easily factor. We find the solutions of the quadratic, and then we use those to make our factors. So in this case, right, we don't have a b. B is 0. And then we've got a is 25 and c is negative 16. A is 25, b is 0, and c is negative 16. Oops. So I have negative 0 plus minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times a, which is 25 times negative 16, over 2 times 25. So this becomes, well, if I do 4, let's do negative 4 times 25 times negative 16. I get 1600. If I take the square root of that immediately, I get 40. So I get plus minus 40 divided by 2 times 25 is 50. 40 divided by 50 reduces to just 4 over 5. So add another page. So x is negative 4 over 5, and x is positive 4 over 5. So what I have is, all right, my factors are going to be 25x squared minus 16. My factors are going to be x plus 4 over 5, which actually goes with this negative 4 over 5, and x minus 4 over 5. What we can do is, let's see here, I'm going to keep it like that. Another trick I could employ is I could set it equal to 0, because these are things, these are going to be equal to 0 at the same time. And I could pull out this over 5, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to not do that for a little bit. So we factored this one. I'm going to go ahead and do that with each of these terms. Okay, let's see if I can find a different color here. 5x squared plus 11x minus 12. Plus 11x minus 12. X is negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So because you're subtracting inside, we can't take the square root because the square root doesn't split up. The square root only splits up if you're multiplying or dividing inside. So you have to be careful. Okay. So, let's see here. A is 5, B is 11, C is negative 12. Oh, keep going to the same, wrong color. Trying to keep them coordinated here. Negative 11 plus minus the square root of 11 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 12 over 2 times 5. So you have 11 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 12. 361. Here's hoping I get a nice root. 19. So get a negative 11 plus minus 19 over 10. So x is going to be negative 11 plus 19. So negative 11 plus 19, 8 over 10, which is 4 over 5. And x is negative 11 minus 19, negative 30 divided by 10, negative 3. Okay. So now I've got this 4 over 5 again, which is a relief. So I get this thing, 5x squared plus 11x minus 12 is going to be x minus 4 over 5 times x plus 3, right? Using the opposite sign that I found for my solutions. Okay. Let's see here. Purple. X squared plus 9x plus 20. Let's factor that. X squared plus 9x plus 20. A is 1, B is 9, and C is 20. X is negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Negative 9 plus minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 20 over 2 times 1. Negative 9 plus minus, and I'm just going to do 9 squared is 81 minus 4 times 1 times 20 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. Divide by 2. So x is negative 9 plus 1 divided by 2 is negative 4, and x is negative 9 minus 1 divided by 2, which is -5. So what we have is we have x squared plus 9x plus 20 can be rewritten as x plus 4 times x plus 5. Okay. All right. We've got all our factors. Hopefully some stuff cancels out. So here, I'm just going to go back and steal this. Copy. Because what I get is I get, and I'll put x plus 4 in brackets just so I can see that it's one thing, divided by, let's see here. Like I said, I'm gonna just leave it like it is for a little bit, just in case I can cancel some stuff out. Then the green one, okay. Which it looks like I can. Copy. And then finally the purple one. Okay. Okay. So, trying to grab a color that you can all see. Here's some nice things, or here are some nice things that happen, right? First of all, the x plus 4, because I'm multiplying across here, so I'm allowed to cancel, and so x plus 4 cancels with x plus 4. That's great. And x minus over 5 and x minus 4 over 5, those are going to cancel as well, right? And so let's have a look here. So x plus 4 cancels with x plus 4, and x minus 4 over 5 cancels with x minus 4 over 5. So really now what I'm left with is I have, oops, pointer, x plus 4 over 5 times x plus 5. That's all dividing into x plus 3. And so let's summarize this here, and I get x plus 3 over x plus 4 over 5 times x plus 5. That is far enough for me. What we could do is we could put this over a common denominator, right, and get 5x over 5 plus 4. But I'm happy if you get to this point. A lot of work, but as long as you keep in mind, so here we're done. You do have to factor all these individually, right? But then what you'll find is, of course, some of these factors are going to cancel out, and then whatever you're left with is your final answer. Because then it's factored. There's no more, there's nothing else you can do. Okay. So, what I'm going to do is, because we've got a little bit of time, so what I want to do is, because I haven't seen any other questions come in, I'll post the answer key, of course, on Moodle, but I'm going to go make a GradeScope.ca account and send you guys an invite from there. How about that? Now I'll have to keep track of my GradeScope.ca and .com. Any questions? I haven't seen any questions. So I'll stay on the line here, but I will stop the recording. And if you want to use this time to work through some of those problems, then sure. But I'll go get these invites organized. How about that? Okay.